Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is Friday, May 23rd, 2025. We are in Gemini season, which is a time for getting out and networking and socializing a little bit, maybe going to your local coffee shop or restaurant or your local boutique or salon, supporting local businesses. Fairs and marketplaces are a lot of fun right now. Taking a weekend trip or a small excursion. And this is a time for workshops and seminars and learning and communication of all forms. This is a time of curiosity and a lot of excitement. And this Gemini season, which will last through June 20th, will give us a preview of when Uranus, which is the higher octave of Mercury, the planet of ingenuity and invention and brilliance, Uranus will transit this year in the sign of Gemini from July 7th through November 6th, and then it will return next year on April 25th, and it'll be there on and off through May 22nd of 2033. So this will mark a new chapter of really bringing level and bringing the Pluto in Aquarius potential and excitement to a whole other level. This is really bringing infinite possibility and so much learning and just really, I think, a lot of excitement and magic and healing and potential for community coming together again in more of a localized way with Uranus in Gemini. This is about, realizing that yes, technology has infinite potential right now, certainly with Pluto and Aquarius the next 19 years. But I think from the perspective of mental health, which Saturn in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces have really pronounced in the last year and a half or so, and now with the eclipses in the Pisces-Virgo axis, this is really about healing, and I think coming together in person and in more local capacities is also essential. Really supporting your local community, wherever you live. If you live in a small town, if you live in a big city, this is a time to celebrate those places, those neighborhoods, those local mom and pop shops that really need our support. And Jupiter in Gemini has been shedding a light on that. And now Uranus in Gemini, I think, will help innovate new opportunities for neighborhoods to thrive, for local learning centers and just different ways to learn, more interest in metaphysics and astrology, and a lot of exciting things. So this weekend we're in Gemini season. We had a beautiful Venus-Mars trine, and that occurred yesterday on May 22nd, and that's still lingering, and that's a very magical, creative, and romantic energy that is looming for a little while, really through the end of May, through the early part of June, and that's exciting. And then we start on May 24th. We have a lot going on. This is a very big week. The Sun makes a beautiful trine to Pluto at 11:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and that is a very empowering aspect. The Sun in Gemini making a beautiful angle to Pluto in Aquarius, which is about learning and thinking in infinite ways, and really the excitement around that. It's very exciting. And then on that date, Mercury meets up with Uranus, and that could bring a lot of revelations. It could be very, very ingenious and creative, and that happens at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. There could be changes in plans, and there could be twists and turns, but I think it's more from the energy of the fun and exciting opportunities that lie ahead of all of us, and seeing things in infinite potential. And so that occurs again at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then the big kicker of the week and of the month is that Saturn, which is the planet of karma and challenges and maturation and building and structures in our lives, Saturn ingresses into the cardinal fire sign of Aries at 11:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it'll be in the sign of Aries through September 1st. And then it's going to ingress back into Pisces to the last 4 degrees, the last decan of Pisces, where it'll be through the end of January of next year. And Saturn in Aries is in its fall position. It is a time that can challenge your confidence, your belief in self, your belief in your identity. And maybe the last few years with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, maybe your identity has already been eroding, with security seeming more tenuous. But realizing that this round, the last time Saturn was in Aries, was from April 7th of 1996 through February 28th through 1999. And this time now, Neptune is going to be part of this story, and Neptune is informing this whole theme, bringing a new sense of magic and identity for all of us. And Neptune has not been in the sign of Aries since 1861, and that's dimming the challenges or limitations that Saturn and Aries might impose. Again, those challenges around self-belief. And I think this is really exciting. And so we've got Saturn in Aries, and we have a few months where, okay, Neptune will retrograde on July 13th. It's going to get to 2 degrees and 11 minutes of Aries. Saturn will retrograde on July 4th, and it's going to get to 1 degree and 55 minutes of Aries. And then again, Saturn returns to Pisces on September 1st, and Neptune returns on October 22nd to Pisces. But we've got this summer to really build the dream. And then we are dealing with all the magic of Gemini season, giving us a preview of Uranus and Gemini. And Uranus is going to trine Pluto, I believe, 6 times, several times, bringing a lot of magic. And the first time they're kind of building to trine one another will be later in the summer, late July, but really more into mid-late August. We're going to have Uranus and Gemini trining Pluto in Aquarius, saying the future is just, without any boundaries of intellectual potential and learning and ascension, but also on a metaphysical level of coming together as community and as groups, and coming together in a way that's not just about the ego of self, but more about the possibility of the collective. And I think that's exciting as well. And so we have, let's see, over the weekend, Mercury will enter the sign of Gemini on Saturday the 25th at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's moving very quickly now. It's over 2 degrees a day, and it will remain in Gemini through June 8th. And it's going to form an enabling aspect to Saturn in Aries, and that will be at 9:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May 24th, and on May 25th, and that's bringing structure to what you're trying to learn. This new moon is really about planting new seeds, because again, the future is infinite and there is so much potential. So Gemini rules your knowledge, it rules your thinking, your thoughts and ideas, and your words. So writing down what you're trying to build, because there will be a new moon on Monday, May 26th, and that will occur at 11:02 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 6 degrees and 6 minutes of Gemini. And this is a new moon, a new opportunity to set intentions around whatever it is you want to magnetize into your life, and see where 6 degrees of Gemini is in your chart, because that's where you're experiencing new beginnings. But I don't think it has to just limit you to that, especially with the new moon forming a trine to Pluto. And, they're within 3 degrees, and that is, again, evolving all the thinking, all that you can achieve, all that you can learn and network, and people, the opportunities that lie ahead through networking, both locally and through social media. And if you work for yourself, this is an amazing time for marketing yourself, for learning new ways of getting your message out there and reaching people in new ways. With Uranus and Gemini, it's going to be, again, accelerating the new platforms. And I know a lot of people feel overwhelmed by dealing with platforms for getting the message out there, but still, I think it'll become easier, it'll become faster, and yet you'll be able to reach more people in a shorter amount of time, and it'll become more seamless. And I think that will definitely be achievable, and it's exciting. And Mercury is also forming a sextile to Neptune on the day of the new moon, and that occurs at 4:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So just like when the Sun formed a sextile to Neptune in Gemini, the Sun in Gemini formed a sextile to Neptune in Aries. That was a time of new beginnings in terms of what you're trying to achieve through that new dream. Now Mercury is sextiling Neptune on the day of a new moon, where you are planting new seeds of what you want to grow in your life, what you want to build, what you want to have, and what your dream is, really, your wish. And so Mercury in harmony with Neptune means you can really magnetize the dream. And Mercury in Gemini is in its dignity, and this is really phenomenal. And it's also perfecting a trine to Pluto, which will become exact on the following day, on May 27th. And so this is, again, you can achieve anything you put your mind to, and that is the message of this new moon. You can achieve whatever you put your mind to. And so if ever this were possible, this is with Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, the air signs, in harmony with fire, Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Fire and air bring opportunity. And we're going to have a magical triangle next year with Neptune in Aries, closely linked to Saturn in Aries, sextiling both Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. And that's going to get stronger next summer. And that's very, very exciting. So we have a lot to look forward to. And so knowing that this weekend there are a lot of social opportunities, there could be some changes in plans or surprises with Mercury meeting up with Uranus on May 24th, the day that Saturn enters Aries. But that could also bring you that moment of, wow, you really get it. You really figure it all out. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. It could be ingenious and really good for networking, and also if you're doing any brainstorming or working over the weekend, that would be incredibly inventive and creative energy. And social energy too. Maybe somebody comes in unexpectedly who's very exciting or adds a lot of fun to the party. And on the day of the new moon, Chiron, which is the goddess of, the Chiron, the wounded healer, meets up with Eris, the goddess of discord. And the two are going to meet up 3 times in the sky. They're going to meet up again in October. But right now they're meeting on the day of the new moon. And Chiron takes 50 years, approximately a little over 50 years to transit, and Eris takes 557 years. So this is a pretty rare alignment for facing your fears about fighting for yourself and what you believe in, and even if that means having to start up a little trouble, not in an unethical or mean way, but maybe if you're getting things going in order to wake people up for justice and the right things that you believe in, this is a time, again, fighting for yourself. Saturn and Aries may test your belief in yourself, but believe in yourself. And again, on the day of the new moon, Mercury is in harmony with Neptune. You can manifest your dream and your beliefs and what you're thinking about. So really work with this new moon energy. Set new intentions. Do the law of abundance. And I wish you a lot of luck. Thank you.